Our top story tonight, President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, is in Lansing right now to testify in front of a House committee to talk about election fraud allegations.
He already addressed some of this during a Facebook Live event earlier with Michigan GOP Chair Laura Cox. But the big focus is on what he'll say to our state lawmakers. Lindsay McComal, who has been following this story every step of the way, is in Lansing with the big takeaways tonight. Lindsay.
Yeah, Brian and Sue, we do expect to hear him lay out what he says is evidence of voter fraud, and as he puts it, that the election was stolen from President Trump. That hearing set to get underway in just a few minutes here, really. We have not seen him show up here at the front of the building. They did just turn the music down. I know the crowd behind me has been anticipating his arrival and has been here to greet him. Here's a closer look at the crowd that is gathered outside of the Anderson building here, where the House Oversight Committee will be hearing Mr. Giuliani's testimony this evening. They're here to show support for the former mayor and current attorney for the president. He did hold a briefing before giving his testimony. This is a preview of what we expect to hear him to say in front of legislators.
About 4:30 in the morning, after the counting had kind of all calmed down and they had gotten everybody out of the center, particularly all the Republicans, or they thought they did, all of a sudden, two giant trucks showed up in the back of the center. The people there thought it was food, and they hadn't had food all day. They ran for the truck, and it wasn't food, it was ballots. Ballot upon ballot upon ballot upon ballot.
Now, what he's referring to, or the dump that has been talked about over and over again since the election, really, he's explaining the remaining absentee ballots that met that 8 p.m. deadline on election evening, that first in Michigan across the state had to be taken to the local clerk's office, in this case, the Detroit clerk's office, to be processed, meaning the signature had to be checked. The number on the envelope of that ballot had to be cross-checked to make sure that there wasn't a mix-up there. And from there, those ballots had to then be transported to where the absentees were being counted by the Absentee Voter Counting Board, which in Detroit was the TCF Center. Now, that's something that has been asked and answered by Detroit election officials. However, it continues to be laid out as proof of fraud, but really the fact of the matter is it was a record turnout related to absentee voting. This was the first general election where Prop 3 allowed people to vote absentee for no reason. And of course, we're also in the middle of a pandemic, so a lot of people felt more safe voting with an absentee ballot, not going in person to the precinct. That is why we saw absentee counting boards across the state, including in Kent County, spend several hours tabulating those ballots and getting those results. So that is something we believe that we'll be hearing about through his testimony this evening. It's also important to note that Trump's legal team does have the right to request a hand recount of the paper ballots. Another allegation is that paper ballots at the TCF Center were run through multiple times, generating more results for Joe Biden. They have yet to request a hand recount, so that's something else that legislators could be able to ask him this evening. We'll, of course, be keeping an eye on it. Back to you.
All right, Lindsay McComal, a very serious topic as you're fighting your way through disco night there in Lansing. We'll stay on top of this story as that hearing now getting underway through all that. The latest number